So I'm continuing work on my 1911 build. The next thing I'm going to work on is the whole rear area of the gun here, and I'm including that all as one thing for a particular reason. Let me explain why. The first thing I'll do will be to take some material off of these tangs here so I can put the thumb safety or a pin through here. That'll be the first part of the fitting. But then the next thing I want to do is something which will lock the Beavertail grip safety forward. When John Moses Browning originally designed the 1911, or what would become the 1911, there was no grip safety here. That was a requirement of the U.S. military, and some people don't like it. They would argue that if you need to fire the gun and you don't have a good grip on it, or need to fire it from an awkward position, it may not fire when you need it to if you don't have a good grip here. I'm not advising anyone to do this, but it's something that I want to do, so don't say that I recommended it. What I'm planning on doing is either adding some material to these tangs here to make them a little thicker, or these tabs to thicken those up, or do it here, make these a little thicker, so that when I slide the mainspring housing up into the frame, these would butt up against each other like this, but it would hold the Beavertail safety here forward. So this gap in the middle here that you see, that hole, would be filled with metal, and when this slides up, these would be touching each other, but the Beavertail would be forward like this. That's my idea. So I'm thinking I'll just silver solder some stainless material on here. I've got some scrap stainless steel that I used to build up the frame bridge on my other frame that I goofed up. So I'll just see if I can silver solder some, maybe on here. That might be the easiest way to do it. And then just do a little filing so that they pressed on each other in this open area. They press on each other when I slide this up. So this would be held forward when I slide this up. This would lock this in a forward position. So fit this, get a pin through there, get that material in there and fit, and then I can put a pin here, and then this all should be locked in place tightly as if it were one piece. At that point, what I'll do is get out the Dremel, and I'm going to get rid of this bump here, which actually is quite uncomfortable when you fire the gun, so that we'll just have one continuous smooth backstrap on the gun here. Should be very comfortable. That is the plan, and as I make headway, I'll come back and add some more clips of the progress that I'm making. And actually the first thing I'll probably do is grind this off. So this is the part of the Beavertail grip safety that prevents the trigger from moving to the rear, and since I'm disabling the grip safety, this is not going to be necessary. So the first thing I'll do will be to get rid of this, and then proceed as I have explained. Well, 65 bucks for this EGW Beavertail grip safety. So, hopefully I don't goof it up. This is how the backstrap looks after the bench grinder. I use the bench grinder to take that big piece of metal off there and to bring this down, because that's some pretty heavy lifting. Would have taken a long time with sandpaper and files, so took the bulk of it off with the bench grinder, and now I'll clean it up with sandpaper. And while I'm thinking of it, let me say something again, because I know I'm going to get crap from people who like to complain and tell other people what to do about disabling the government mandated grip safety. I'll just put it explicitly: never ever disable the grip safety. It's a terrible idea. Never ever do it. And now I'm going to continue doing it. But no one else should ever do it. It's a terrible idea. One other thing I want to point out, or remind you of if you've watched my first series of videos. So what I'm doing is using a strip of sandpaper on here, and like I'm shining a shoe, holding it with one hand here, and just going back and forth to get a nice, round, smooth, even surface here. But I was doing it at a steep angle on my first build, and it's easier to apply greater pressure that way. But when you do that, you sand this edge off the frame, and that's a beautiful factory edge that I want to keep this time around. So I'm keeping the sandpaper at a flatter angle, not so steep like this, because I don't want to touch this edge with the sandpaper. You can see it's taking, maybe you can see, it's taking material, there you can see it, I think, off that high spot right in the center, because I'm at a relatively flat angle here. So it's just touching that center. So I'm just going to need to be patient. So that's a high spot. I'll just need to be patient with the sandpaper until that high spot's gone and the sandpaper begins to smooth out the entire width of the mainspring housing. And I don't care if I sand into here, I just don't want it to get as far over as this edge. So I discovered that sanding the gun from this angle lets me control the sandpaper perfectly so as not to disturb this sharp edge along the backstrap, and I can just get this material sanded down just so it blends right in with the frame. Let me show you what I mean. It's a perfect angle. So getting the gun mounted in the vise at the best angle can help you get the job done a little better. And the way I got the Beavertail to stay in, I silver soldered a little material on the bottom of it here and filed this angle here right here into the material so that when this edge slides up, it pushes that in like that. The only problem with it is that the mainspring housing here also exerts an upward force on the Beavertail, and so it might make the thumb safety a little stiff since it could be pushing on the shaft of the thumb safety. I took enough material off of here, I think, to relieve that pressure on the shaft and still keep this snug. But for that reason, I think maybe this isn't the best way to lock the Beavertail in place. As far as a better way, I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it. But for this one, I think it's going to work okay. For my first attempt, I think it's a reasonable solution. So I'm done with the backstrap, I think. It's not perfect, but it's very, very comfortable. The speed bump's gone, and there is no grip safety anymore. So I'm pretty happy with it. It's a lot of work, but the work on it's, I think, better on these edges here than my previous one. I kept this nice sharp edge that came from the factory, so I'm happy with that. And it looks pretty nice. This looks a little rough. You can still see the sandpaper marks on it, so I'll probably smooth it out a hair more. And I think sandblasting will clean it up as well some. I think it actually looks a little better than on camera. Yeah, but just very, very fine sandpaper marks, so that's no big deal. Just a tiny bit of cleanup, I think, will take care of that. I also did a little reshaping on the tang here of the Beavertail. This Beavertail comes with a lot of meat on it, so I wanted to make it a little more petite. So it's a little more petite than it came. So pretty happy with it.